shared services with Cleveland for trash collection. And that kind of goes along with what Ms. Thomas said.
And I agree with that. Should they start exploring that now?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I think, yep.
That's
Ms.
how we
Johnson?
got into that situation. We wait until the last minute and I back up against the wall and then we have to jump in and take that contract the way it is. What do you want to say?
I think the plan is to start looking at this in August.
Okay.
Okay, that's good news. Okay.
And then finally, number 4, explore shared services for fire protection. The city of Cleveland. And I think that's ongoing. It's been going on for a little while.
Now, this may get complicated because this would involve the contracts that are already in effect, right?
Sure, it's a
Right.
big, I'm sure it's a big process, so, but they're looking into it.
And they have done some cost analysis and it would not be cheaper when they did cost analysis to merge with Cleveland. So I think you're gonna have to do something else. They're saying they're in the process of doing that, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a discussion in regards to it, and it was, that's where they talk about the grants. We can upgrade our equipment to get it cheap for us to be able to absorb that through the fire department.
But that's gonna take time.
Right.
Mr. Johnson, what's your feel about that?
I think it's a really good idea. I think it improves response to our residents, both on the EMS and fire side. So in addition to potentially saving the city $1 million a year, it improves service to our residents, which I think is most important.
Okay.
We got a competing response time with our fire department.
I think we got a good. I haven't heard any complaints, and I myself read from the apparatuses for years. I think we do pretty well get the houses.
My comments were meant to be negative towards our fire department. The whole goal of this thing is to reduce the city's cost.
None taken.
That's it. Okay, let's go to assurance of the financial plan.
All right. Those are just things that by state law you have to do, and when you're in fiscal emergency especially, you have to do your tax budget every year, you have to pass your appropriations every year. What we do at our meetings, if you've been, we look at things monthly and what percent we've spent. Are we on track? That's what number 2 means. The debt will not exceed, you won't incur any debt that you can't pay for. That's what number 3 means.
Right on page 5, where it says assurance of the financial plan.
And number 4 is when you're in fiscal emergency, the state auditor does a report of accounting methods. We basically look at all your accounting procedures and see where you need work on. And so you need to improve on those in order to get out of fiscal emergency.
Now, we're going to page 6, and
Page 6.
you want to point out all the key stuff, maybe we can...
Yeah, we'll expedite this just a little bit.
Okay.
I'm going to let Tisha talk about page 6.
Okay.
Because she actually ran the numbers to go with this plan. So,
Starting on page 6, you'll see down the left-hand side are all the revenues and the start of the expenditures. Then the very first column of numbers are what was actually received and spent in 2013. And then the next column is labeled forecasted 2014, and that's where we start the 5-year forecast, and you'll see we go from 14 to 2018. The very top part is what has been certified on your amended certificate, the $11,445,000. You can see the total revenues, the middle, like towards the middle bottom half of the column, total revenues in column 14. Is everyone see 11,000,004? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's currently certified at the county for your amended certificate. Then the appropriations that are listed in the 2014 column are what council passed, was it back in December? So if you can,
Let me make sure I'm with you. You see where it says total revenues in the, like in the middle here,
correct,
and where it says forecasted 2014 11.4 million?
correct.
Okay.
And then starting with the expenditures, where you see the police department personal services, 4,026,850. That's what council appropriated back with ordinance 4513, I believe.
Okay.
So we always start with the current certificate in place and the current appropriations in place. So that takes us down through page 8.
Okay.
So that's if everything stayed as is. But starting on page 9, so if everyone
Well,
could turn.
before you go to 8, let me ask you, I'm looking at this Helen S. Brown. Can you say something about that? Because Barbara would, we've always had issues with Helen S. Brown, so what's the status of that?
Well, at least in the forecast, in 13, there were some expenditures made in the general fund for Helen S. Brown.
Mm-hmm.
In 14, you guys did not appropriate for Helen S. Brown in the general fund. You appropriated the Helen S. Brown fund.
Okay.
So that's why there's 0, because this is only the general fund. Yeah, and there will actually be a page, I think it's 9, 10, like maybe
10.
page 10 or something,
Mhm.
that talks about Helen S. Brown. So when we get to that,
Okay.
we'll talk about Helen S. Brown. So if you turn to page 9, all those recovery plan items that Nita went over, we can actually see the number effect on the financials. As Nita mentioned before, this is only a point in time. This is what our best knowledge that we know right now. So if any one thing doesn't happen, obviously that's going to affect the numbers and the outcome. But you can see again down the left-hand side, there is a brief description with a number that will coincide to the words on the pages that Nita already went over. And you can kind of see either the savings or the increase in revenue and or the cost of doing it. Should I do one specific or just, like for example, the sale of Noble property, the second one, it's a one-time revenue of $125,000. So that's why it's only 14. Continuing down, the third from the bottom, you'll see the local government borrowing. We did an estimate as to how much the city could borrow along with the repayment, because you have to start paying that back, and then to transfer to the deficit funds. So if everything goes perfect in our theory world of numbers, then in 14, the city could potentially end the year with a positive balance.
Well, let me ask you this. I know Barbara brought it up at the last fiscal commission meeting in the library. This benefits, Commerce Benefit Group, and setting aside money in an account for that. Is that factored in here? How does that work?
Let you know.
Healthcare, okay. The healthcare benefits, Commerce benefits, whatever they call it. But she asked that question there, and at that point, we didn't have an account set aside to put money in there. What's the status of that?
We don't as of yet, as far as I know. Jack?
We have not established the fund. I know that we have authorization to, but we have not established the fund because we don't have anything for you.
Then you got, we know the bank, the Fifth Third,
Yes.
Fifth
And
Third Bank, there is an account, but there's nothing in it.
well, we are wiring claims. We have gotten a few claims invoices, and our claims payments are up to date, and our payments with Commerce Benefits Group are up to date.
So, yes, Brandon, go ahead.
Excuse me, you spoke earlier about I think about the prerequisite of money that would be involved with the state. Would it capture that money that needs to go into that account as well? Would that be mandatory?
I'm gonna try to answer you. If I don't, tell me. When the appropriations, well, we don't have, yeah, they are. They include the healthcare benefits.
I think it's after that, the local government.
Right. It should cover that, because in the appropriations, the ones that you're gonna, the next resolution, ordinance, has those healthcare payments in it. So what Tisha did was she cost everybody out in the city and did the healthcare, the pension, Medicare, workers' comp, and those payments, claims are built in. The local government money is another issue to take care of the deficits, to get those unpaid bills paid, and will get us back to flush again. All right? But for next year, there's work to do, as you'll see. But the local government will get us whole for 14 and get all that debt off our backs. Did I answer it?
You answered it, but still, the money that's to go in the bank account for the healthcare, that's not considered debt.
Correct. That's an operation.
So technically, the money we're getting from the state that we're borrowing wouldn't have to go in there because it only stipulates bills get paid because it's not a bill.
Bills and get your deficit fund whole. Jack?
But the claims bills that we get every week and our obligation to pay Commerce Benefits Group aren't considered bills. So we are anticipating that we're gonna pay them on an ongoing basis. But this doesn't contemplate that we're gonna take $2 million, put it into a separate fund and just allocate it for healthcare. It's gonna be done over the course of the year. We're gonna pay the bills over the course of the year.
But, and maybe I'm going a little bit backwards, wasn't that the contention when we, got this, group that we could set aside X amount of dollars for this? And what you're saying now is in contrast to what she was saying before. When you get something in, pay your bill. Okay, so if you don't have the money and you get it in, set aside, then what are you gonna do? You're still, my old cliche is robbing Peter to pay Paul. Because if something else comes in at the same time, you got to determine how you're going to do that, but you don't have the pool of money you can draw from. Or are you going to do like I do, have a list of bills you gotta pay every month, and then you know who got to be paid first?
And who can wait?
I mean, that's basically what you're doing now.
Yes, well, hopefully what this does is reset us back to zero,
Okay.
as Nina said earlier. And going forward, we can keep up with everything.
So will there be enough, will there be a system that we put in place, like when you get your money in, that a certain amount will go into that, account at Fifth Third? And that's what I wanna hear,
Yes.
because we're gonna, this finance committee is going to be on target, like right on right. Okay, so, I don't know about the audit committee, but this finance committee.
Well, I want to add something briefly before we move on to Anita, Tisha, and Jack. Over the last few years, the local government fund has been cut, and that's the complaint of all the municipalities. Do you envision it to be cutting in the coming years?
I'm going to give you my answer.
Okay.
I'm not the governor. When you issue local government notes, there's documents that need to be signed by the county, and we get the bond council does this big book. And somebody's gonna sign that those monies will be there for the city of East Cleveland. So that's the best guarantee that the city has right now, is that signature on that piece of paper saying that the local government monies will be there to pay this debt.
And that's what happened. We can't even get this one.
Okay, let's move on. Okay.
Okay, so to finish up the general fund, before we move off of page 9, you can see, once again in the 14 column, if everything goes according to our perfect little world, the city would end in the black in 14. But as Nita mentioned earlier, starting in 15 and continuing throughout, the city still needs to make some decisions in order to remain in the black, because you can kind of see you start going back into the red. So again, as Nita mentioned earlier, the recovery plan is a work in progress and will need to continually be updated. And as if, let's say, something doesn't happen, we're going to be looking for a replacement on either the savings side and or revenue side.
So are we saying that if everything goes the way we're forecasting, by the end of 2014, we're gonna have 782,914.69? That's our hope?
If everything goes exactly according to this plan, and there's not an extra 10 cents for a gumball somewhere, then yes, that's a possibility.
All right, we go to 10, and then anything that you think is the expedited for everybody, any key stuff that
10, we'll just, everything's set up the same way for the top part of the number. It's the amended certificate and the appropriations, and then you'll see a grouping of the recovery plan items where, just like the general fund, the numbers are going to match. Page 10 is the Helen S. Brown. Again,
Okay.
you can see in 14, the balance comes to 0. But just like the general fund, the city needs to look into Helen S. Brown a little further, because starting in 15, you start going back into the red again.
Well, I wanted to ask, especially Jack Johnson, I've heard some comments from the administration about transferring Helen S. Brown to maybe the Civic Center or something like. What's your take on that?
As she pointed out, some decisions have to be made, whether to drastically reduce the services here, or to close the entire facility down, or to try to find additional revenue that's going to accommodate this expense.
Okay, let's continue.
Page 11 is the court's community service. It had a small deficit. I don't believe the fund is utilized anymore, so we're looking to do a one-time transfer for the general fund, which would eliminate the deficit. And as long as nothing else happens, it would remain at 0. The CDBG fund is forecasted to end in the black and to remain in the black once again if everything happens according to plan. On page 13.
Wait a minute. I had asked her about the fiscal recovery plan, the projected revenue under NSP. The city will not receive that $190,000 each for 2015 through 2018.
On page 12.
I'm not on page.
Okay. We're on page 12. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is a one-time grant that the NSP 3. Okay. And according to the letter from HUD dated March 11, I had her dig this up. This grant is to be completed by July 8, 2014. And it is forecast that the city will receive 1,430,845 each year for 2015 through 2018.
If we could have a copy of the letter.
Well, that was a one-shot grant that was given 4 years ago for a little over $1 million. The end date has to be completed this year. You do not get any more money. There is no revenues coming in at $190,000.
Okay, then on page 17, the city would then have to make a decision what to do with those expenditures if the revenues are not there.
So,
So again, like I said before, the forecast was what we knew at the point in time. So then obviously that's going to change this forecast, which means the city will have to make a decision what to do with the expenditures that are currently in NSP 3.
so, Mr. Johnson, have you looked at that, or is this something that you need to look at?
We'll take a look at it, but obviously if there aren't any grant revenues, we're going to incur any expenses for that activity. Most of the NSP money, from what I recall, was used for demolition. So it will be money that's not going to be available for demolition. The staff people that, whose salaries were charged there will obviously have to be reallocated somewhere else. My guess is that they would probably be reallocated to the community development block grant. But, you know, obviously we can't incur any expenses if there is not going to be any more revenue. But I will take a look at that.
Okay, and then you'll get back to us and explain, how it's going to be distributed or what's gonna happen, so that we'll know.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you guys want to go back to page 12 or, okay. Again,